The majority of 27-inch 1440p 144Hz or higher monitors are all in the £400, £500, £600, £700 price range. A lot of the higher ones often coming with Nvidia's G-Sync, and obviously the cheaper ones tending to come with AMD's Freesync. And overall it means that those are pretty expensive monitors that most people can't get their hands on. With that said though, when you hear that there's a monitor with all of those specs but with a price tag of about £280, you kind of wonder if it's just too good to be true. Now if you didn't guess, that would be this, the Element Gaming 27-inch 1440p 144Hz 1 millisecond TN monitor. It's kind of an interesting one. There's some exterior quirks that we want to look at and some interesting features, as Doug Demure would say, with the panels. So let's take a look at all of those things, starting with the exterior. As you can see, the monitor has a flush bezel all around, obviously barring the fairly small chin bar with the bright white Element Gaming logo on the bottom, which means that it's actually a pretty nice thing to look at. It has a metal sort of band around the outside, which is cool enough, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then on the back you have a very thin overall panel at the top, with then just a sort of small bulge at the bottom for your display scaler, your display inputs, and your power supply and all that sort of stuff, and obviously where the stand attaches. There is no VESA mount here, you can only use the included stand, and I've got a kind of full segment about the stand in a second, but let's talk about the display inputs, which by the way are outward, sort of rearward facing, so even if you could mount this to a display or a VESA mount, you couldn't mount it right up against the wall as you'd be breaking your display connectors. But either way, you have DVI, HDMI, DisplayPort, DC in, and audio out. Now I said I would talk about the stand, and I think this is a good point to do that. So first of all, when you actually take it out of the box, you'll notice how incredibly light it is for being a all metal stand. They also didn't deburr it that well, so it's pretty sharp. It kind of hurts to hold and to put together, and you might even cut your fingers on it, so be careful if you do pick one of these up. And in terms of actually mounting it to the monitor, it's just two tiny little screws right next to each other, with then two sort of locating pins on the actual stand piece that are meant to slot into the monitor. My experience though, those two little pins didn't fit in the holes that were in the monitor, and then I had to sort of wrench on the screws to get them to actually secure the monitor and hold it to its stand. Once you do get it in, you'll notice that there is basically no adjustment. There's a small amount of tilt, and that's it. If you want to, turn the monitor, you just physically pick the monitor up and turn it. Otherwise, the actual stand itself is really not that great. It's not that great at supporting the monitor itself anyway. Obviously, as you can see, with any sort of small table movements, the monitor will move around, and any sort of movement of the monitor itself is going to be a fairly big sort of shock to move it around, so bear that in mind. And finally, because of the just general quality and build quality of the actual stand piece itself, the monitor isn't level. The left-hand side is about a centimeter higher than the right-hand side, and that's not something you can correct. That's just something with, how the stand is designed, and it looks like it was welded on or sintered slightly off to the side, which doesn't look too right. But either way, that is a thing with the monitor that you can't correct unless you start propping, shimming underneath the stand itself. There are a couple of other sort of quality assurance concerns I have. First of all, I should mention though that the box showed 0 signs of shipping damage, the foam inside showed 0 signs of shipping damage, so the assumption here is that all of these things came from the factory rather than from the more usual suspect of, well, shipping damage. I would mention though, on that note, that the box and the foam are incredibly small and incredibly thin, so it seems to be anyway more likely to me that you will see shipping damage if you pick one of these up, just because of the sheer thinness of the foam in the box itself compared to the majority of other monitors, especially 27-inch 1440p ones. With that said though, the concerns I have are with the band on the outside of the monitor. The top right and top left hand corners seem to have been bent fairly badly to actually fit it around the frame of the monitor, which means that there's a fairly large gap at the top on both sides that looks to be filled with some sort of epoxy or something like that. So overall build quality from the factory doesn't look all that great, and the little hat switch for kind of moving around the monitor, the little sort of joystick on the back, that is incredibly cheap plastic and is incredibly flimsy and loose in there. It still does its job perfectly fine. You can still navigate the rather basic menu system just fine with no problems, but it is certainly I guess an element that makes you feel like this monitor is cheaper than it kind of should be. And of course, I've been talking about the kind negatives of the monitor so far, but let's talk about the positives, specifically the panel itself. Well, of course, it is TN and it's not the most color accurate thing. You're probably looking at, I think it was 95% sRGB and then something like 65-66% Adobe RGB, and similar for DCI-P3. So obviously not going to be a color sensitive monitor, and viewing angles also aren't that great either, especially from top to bottom, and considering you have basically no tilt adjustment, that's possibly a deal breaker for some. But if you forget those things and you're just sitting straight on and you're just playing games, which is what the monitor is designed for, then you're going to have an awesome time. I tested the usual sort of frame skipping and I saw none here, which is great to see. It means that it's true 144Hz, and my overall just gaming experience on a monitor was pretty fantastic. I was playing CSGO because that's the easiest one to see high frame rates with the system that is on the bottom side of this table, and just overall, as I said, my experience was really fantastic. I had no issues with ghosting. I had no issues with obviously backlight bleed. That's not something that TNs normally have issues with. And overall, just a very smooth gaming experience at 144Hz, and especially with FreeSync on, it just makes it a very smooth, very enjoyable gaming experience. So to lay this out then, the pros are that the panel itself is fantastic, especially for gaming. You'll have a great time with it. The cons are that the overall build quality isn't great. You may have some shipping damage, and the stand is pretty lackluster, and again, it kind of rolls into the quality aspect. So does that merit the £280 that it's asking for? Well, obviously that is definitely up to you. In comparison to the majority of other £400, £500, £600 1440p 144Hz monitors, this one doesn't feel as premium, obviously, as I mentioned, but with that sort of price point, it is hard to argue that the quality aspects that aren't that great here are not just symptomatic of it being a cheaper monitor and therefore kind of just what you'd expect. Overall, as I said, it's a fantastic monitor if you don't mind the quality issues and the stand not being that great and stuff. I think it's potentially a very, very good gaming experience to be had for not that much money. But obviously, if the quality issues, potential shipping damage is something that you're kind of worried about, then maybe give this one a pass. So with all that said, would I put this on my desk? Well, it's kind of hard to say for me. I would probably go with a no, mostly because with the overall quality, just especially the lack of versatility with a stand, I'm someone who uses a monitor arm, and I'm actually someone who uses an Asus PG279Q personally, so I have plenty of experience with 1440p 27-inch 140 to 165Hz monitors with some level of adaptive sync. But for me, I think this one, there's just a few too many, I guess, quirks rather than features for me personally. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is this something that's interesting to you? Are you picking one of these up just thanks to its price tag, or are you going to steer away from it and get something a little bit more expensive but a little bit better quality? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, if you want to pick up one of these or check out the pricing when and where you watch this, then take a look at the Ebuyer link in the description down below. Those are the guys who sent me this monitor to do this review, so feel free to take a look at those. That's not an affiliate link, so go ham. If you don't want to support the channel though, then you can check out the links in the description. There's Amazon and Overclockers UK affiliate links which massively help me out. You can also check out the Patreon link where you can support me directly. There's merch where you can check out t-shirts like this one. There's private internet access, which is a great and cheap VPN. You can also subscribe for more videos every Monday, Wednesday and Friday with live streams on Thursday nights, and you can check out the other videos over there too. Otherwise, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next video.